What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to a special episode of the Mets'd podcast. If you're listening to us, I suggest you hop on over to YouTube because you will see we are joined by a special guest today, former New York Met, World Series All NLCS hero Daniel Murphy joins us. Daniel, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. How you been? What's going on?
Doing well, Mark. Thank you for having me. James, you as well. Well, it's Sandlot season, and we get to start a little earlier down here in Florida than in the Northeast, which is why all the lads are down in spring training. So we've been balling. My two boys, they ball, play baseball, 10, Noah, and then 7, Drew. And then my daughter's been doing some ice skating, which keeps us a bit cool. And then we got a little one, Jake, who's 2 years old, and he just bosses us around without using much words, like few words as possible. So we're doing good. Thank you for asking. I'm in my wife's her office right now that she has for her charity prom series. So she let me steal it to hang out with you guys.
That sounds like a lot of fun. What does your wife's charity do?
So its main focus is girls who are in the foster care system, middle school to high school age, and she throws events for them. So the first one
Wow.
was in Denver, where she brought all the girls who were in foster care in, got the wives, girlfriends, and fiancés to come and help as well. Got prom dresses for them all, got their hair and makeup done at a suite for a ball game, and now she's probably done that, I think in maybe 50, like 20 stadiums, like an event like that where she's been there and she's been able to host an event in every major league stadium. Like she's been
Wow.
Wow.
really well received, and baseball, and the wives of our guys who have, we leave for the ballpark at like 1 o'clock. You kind of can end up having a lot of free time and something to sink your teeth into. So they've really rallied around my wife Tori and her heart for children in the foster care system. So thank you for
Wow.
asking.
That's awesome to hear. That's amazing stuff. To switch the conversation a little bit, just to go back to baseball now, talk about you. We're going to talk about the Mets. We're going to talk about 2025 Mets. But I think for me and James, as lifelong Mets fans, there's a few things that we got to know about and that we want to ask you, specifically about that 2015 season. We were texting before we got on the show, and we were talking about a lot of the moves that the Mets made this offseason. But during the 2015 season, the Mets made a particularly big move, bringing in Yoenis Cespedes at the trade deadline. As a player on that team, especially because that season was super up and down to begin
Mm.
with, what was it like bringing in a guy like Yo?
Well, the roller coaster ride of how we got there, of kind of thinking it was Carlos Gomez, and then, Flo, just revealing that we're human beings. He just happened to do it in front of, the entire city and world to a certain respect. But when Yo came in, like he just is also in conjunction with getting Kelly Johnson and Uribe. It's like all these guys came in, but when Yo came in, you could feel like Sandy, just like telling the ball club, like, we're going for it. And then we added those other guys as well too. And so that was like just to be in the clubhouse and to get that confidence from the front office, that like we're in this and we're gonna go for it, and we're gonna sacrifice some of ourselves in the future, which was, I think, Michael Fulmer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Hmm.
To make a move right now to try to win in the present. And it was really a huge lift. And then to add in, the guys I talked about, like those are like sandlotters. Like they know how to ball and they know how to win games and get in position to win games. And I learned so much from Kelly Johnson. Like I love Kelly, and so I had a treat playing with him, and it was a wonderful run that we were able to go on.
What was that feeling like in the first half of that season when you guys had a veteran team, a lot of talent? You guys probably knew that you should have been playing better, but we weren't playing up to your own standards. How do you stay motivated? And what was kind of like, if there was one, a galvanizing moment during that first half that kept everyone locked in with the goal in mind?
Yeah, I think looking back on it, we made a really, I think we had like, did we go like 11 like we won like 11 in a row or something. I think that was like, we just kind of came out of the gates really hot. And I think selfishly, I remember I wasn't playing very good. I was pumped we were winning, and I feel like I was doing some things to help us win, but like I didn't feel like I was playing nearly as well as I wanted. But no, we were winning, which was the best part. We kind of rode that 11 game winning streak and some of those ups and downs, and kind of were able to cling to that. And then also, you could say maybe at the same time that the Nationals were underperforming to what they thought they were going to do for their standards. So, we just remained in it the whole year, even though it would have felt like we were kind of trying to keep our head above water other than that real good stretch of a week and a half or 2 weeks we had. So I think what maybe galvanized us was being in the hunt deeper into the season than we had been in what, '08. I mean, we're talking, I think that's the last pennant race I had remembered. And I was, I was up for that one, but like, David had been through those wars. I hadn't been through that. Like I was only up for 2 months. Nick Evans and I coming up. So I think maybe as I think about it and you ask the question and kind of the energy came from being in it, like really being in it. And then you get the bolt from the front office and then we start playing well. And also TC brought us in when we made the trades for Kelly Johnson and Uribe and these guys coming in, and he brought me and Flores and Tejada and Duda on the infielders. David must have been busy. No, I'm kidding. Because what TC was telling us, this is a meritocracy now. You know what I mean? We got there's like 4 of you in here. We got 2 coming, and number 5 is going to be on the menu. So whoever plays best gets to play. And that was unique. Not that we weren't playing the best players, but that we kind of had that many options of good ball players. And so, yeah.
How was it playing around David Wright? Us Mets fans have such he had such an aura for us. He was so much bigger than life. What was it like to be his teammate?
Well, I got to know him kind of in the intimate settings where he lets his guard a little bit. So he would be bigger than life at times, but also like you could get in there and you'd be needling him and back and forth and have like just that locker room banter where you're just getting on each other. But David's willingness, I thought, to take on. So he's already the most recognizable player we have because he's the best, and he plays every day. So he's taking on like that responsibility of posting and showing the whole club and the organization what it looks like to go out and play hard every day. Also trying to be the best teammate he could, which is a choice. You don't have to choose to do that. I've chosen not to do it enough times to know you can choose not to. So now he's taken on that like he's looking around to help those around him. All right. And then you add in the fact that like for the stretch of mostly what I remember, we weren't as good as we wanted to be. We weren't very good. And they ain't come talk to me after ball games. They went and talked to David. And so now he's representing us and the organization again through the media. And you just see like it's a lot of weight to take on that he did voluntarily. And so I was always so impressed at how he could do that and still be so good on the field because it was a long season. And you could not see it wear him. You could just see that's a lot to take on. It was a heavy burden for him to advocate for us as much as he did because he was good and I really wasn't, but he was still standing up for me.
I think you found your stride at some point that season, but do you stay in touch with any guys from that team?
I reach out to DeGrom a little bit. So and then Jake and then David. And then so Satin wasn't on the 15 club, but we end up golfing together. So David, myself, Zimmerman, and Josh Satin have been able to go on like a golf trip the last 2 years. And so we're hoping to keep that going. Let's see, who else? Harvey, I've been able to reach out to Matt. My wife actually ran into him game 4 of the NLDS. Oh, wow. Yeah, in the team store. And Matt was in there spending some of his shekels for the Metropolitans. And then I ran into Ruben Tejada in Long Island when I went and played in 23. So he was coming in to play with Wally. He had some visa troubles, and I was just leaving to head to Salt Lake City. And so we just missed each other, but we got to see each other again. And it had been, that'd been the first time I'd seen him in a while. And I remember Ruben, we were in instructional league together when he was 16. Like he's running around at shortstop, making every play. So like I've known Ruby Tuesday forever. That was a good group.
You had a pretty good look at the slide from Chase Utley going into Ruben Tejada. As a player, because I mean, as a fan, we all went berserk. As a player, what are the initial emotions going on when you see something like that happen?
Well, there's immediate anger, and then there was also some, how do I want to describe it on my part? Like I'd say responsibility. I didn't give Ruben a very good feed at all. Like I didn't really want the ball, and I kind of gave it to him like I didn't want it. Now, I wish that Ruben would have taken the out and secured it and got the hell out of there. You know what I mean? And protected himself. But my boy wanted to play. I've seen him do it since he was 16. He wanted to make a play. Now, on the other end, Utley's coming in. And Chase's goal is to make sure that the guy on deck gets a turn at bat. I think that's the only goal he has. Now, can you say, was it dirty? Did he go in there like he whacked him? He could have gotten him without getting him like that, without a doubt. It was high, it was late, and he went in to make sure that, the on deck batter hit like pretty ferociously. And I say this, but after playing against Chase, if you were to talk to him about it, and I've, not talked to him about it, but I've seen him. We did the home run derby last year. We were part of the old
Yeah.
London, performance.
Yeah.
And so what Chase would say, though, if you were to say is like, I'll be out at second base tomorrow night. And if you want to get me, you can come and get me. And that's the way Chase played his ball. And what David would do was he would try to get his ass. You know what I mean? And so that's the kind of ball we played. But it hurts your heart to see it turn out that way for Ruben getting hit so hard and high. But then honestly, the Sandlotter in me understands where Chase is coming from. It's like, we want to get one more turn at bat. And so that part I get, but I wish it didn't take my boy's leg to get there, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's a moment that sticks with every Mets fan, at least of our age, forever. Because watching your shortstop's leg get broken on the field is like not many baseball fans will ever see that in their lives. And it was crazy. You also had a pretty firsthand view of the Wilmer Flores night. You mentioned it before. At what point did you guys know what was going on? And when you initially saw your shortstop in tears, what did you think was happening?
I think we sorted out that there was like a move and Flo was involved in it. But every other time there's a move like that, you get hooked out of the ball game, and Flo was still out there. You know what I mean? So obviously it wasn't, something was going on. I don't know. I was excited when I was in the lineup and tried to play. I was oblivious to all sorts of stuff. David would have to tell me what was going on. He'd be telling me. I didn't know what was going on. I was just like a little puppy dog chasing a ball. But then you look out there and you just see the real humanity of, like, we're people, like, with families. And again, I go back, like, Flo was in instructional league too. I remember him when he was 16. He was taller than Ruben, but they was about as skinny as each other. And so all he knew was the Mets, and to kind of have all this swirling around with you, like, and you're on display. I think that's what we saw. We saw a human being put on display in a way that most of us get to do, in a more private setting. Like if you get traded or you get moved on from your line of work or to another company, like it's not on SNY. You don't run the highlights on ESPN for Sports Center. And so the humanity aspect of it made my heart hurt for him, but then we got to see his courage and stand up in the face of that. And we really rode Flo, obviously through the series with the Nationals, but even kind of more in the long term, he ended up being the shortstop after Ruben got hurt. And, you could say maybe me and Flo could have caught the ball better in the middle, but, we was out there trying to go. And so, yeah, that's kind of the way I think about it when I look back at Wilbur and that setup.
Going to the 2015 playoff run again, you were so insane in the zone. I mean, something that we really haven't seen from many players ever in the history of the playoffs and the World Series. What is it like to be that locked in for that period of time in the biggest games of the entire year? How are you feeling?
Well, I'd say first, somewhat nervous to not touch it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to mess with this. I don't want to, this cocktail is really good. You know what I mean? And we're playing well and I don't want to mess with it. But the next way I've thought about is like, when my eyes would tell my body to do something, like, it would just do it. And it kind of did it fast and it was doing it dangerously. And my eyes were telling me to swing at like good balls. We were picking good balls. Well, like, I kind of dug into like I've been going back into the past. I've been consuming my baseball lately from like 1900 to like 1940. This is the baseball. And
Nice.
Ted Williams used to ask every great hitter he'd run into, what's it take to be a great hitter? And Roger Hornsby told him, get you a good ball to hit. You'll hear me say it 100 times at our 11U game. We played a tournament. All you hear me, get you a good ball to hit. You know what I mean? Well, I was choosing good balls and my body was doing what I wanted. And then at that point, there's kind of this scuffle between the pitcher and the batsman at who's going to push who back. You know what I mean? Because like the pitchers want you to retreat. They want to push you back. But if you can get into attack mode as the batsman, we are on offense, and you can start anticipating where you think the pitcher's going to go and where he's going to be. there are less places for the pitcher to go than the batter gets to go. We get the whole outfield. He gets the strike zone. And so if I make him make a good ball, that gets even smaller. And you can kind of anticipate when you come here, we're going to let you know that we was looking right there. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of start riding it. And that would be the way to describe it. I think when I got, personally to the World Series, the Royals were able to push me back a little bit, and I got defensive and I wasn't as attacking, and I started swinging at bad pitches. And then you can just feel this ebb and flow between the twirler and the batter. It's like they get to go first, you know what I mean? They initiate and they're trying to push you back, but the price for going first is they don't get to go last, and they're further away from the fight. You know what I mean? We're fighting over this strike. It's one thing Sandy Alderson used to talk about, the strike zone. Like, I think he nailed it. It's a fight over the strike zone. You can feel it in the postseason. Like when Francisco Lindor gets 1-0 with a runner on first, you're like, he's going to score him. He's going to score him right here on this good ball he's going to hit. Going to split this gap. And that's what I tell the boys in our baseball for the Blue Claws over the weekend. Like, we get somebody on first, I go, score him. Well, the only way you're going to score him is you better beat the infielders. You got to beat the first line of defense most of the time. And so you kind of start talking ball like this. And so I would say that fortunately for 15 and that stretch run, I just kind of gotten a moment, and I wasn't ever going to take over a baseball game or two defensively, so it needed to be on offense.
Did that ever affect your play? Because early in your career, you were moving a lot between the infield, the outfield. There were some good times, there were some bad times. What's it like getting into the box when you're going through struggles in the field? Does it affect you in any way?
Yeah, certainly, because there's more pressure on it. Like, you can feel when you're a one-dimensional player. We're trying to win ball games around here. Like, I want to score more runs than the other guys. And if I'm not catching it on defense, that's not helpful. And so as we when you get in there and you're not going good on defense, it was Damian Easley said something when I was a rookie. He would say, and I got my hat backwards, so I won't do that, but he would pick his hat up when it was time to play defense, and after an at bat, and even if it was a crap, he goes, "This is my defensive hat. Now it's time to defend." And he'd put it on, boom, and he'd be like, "Okay." So it's a way to separate the two. So what I learned, it was easier for me to separate a bad play on defense from offense, because I knew if I didn't go on offense, I wasn't going to get the play. And so I would have coaches sometimes, and they would want to talk about a play on defense, and I might be hitting first or second. And it was easy for me to say, like, it's time to put my helmet on. Like, Easy was talking about put his hat on. And so with that, it would be like, I want to talk to you about that boo-boo I just made. I promise. But I got to go hit right now. And I'm hitting third, and it could be first and third, no outs. It could be nobody on, 2 outs. It could be runner on second with 1 out. You know what I mean? I got some situations I got to run through. We'll talk about the defense without a doubt. But I'm telling you, that if I don't go and hit, we ain't got to worry about the defense because y'all won't run me out there. So I kind of separated it like that, try to separate the defense from the offense.
After the 2015 season, hit the free agent market, didn't come back with the Mets, went with the Washington Nationals. What was that whole experience like, negotiating contracts with both teams? Mm-hmm. Were the Mets pushing harder? What was that like in the offseason?
Yeah, I think that the offseason, that one, we had the qualifying offer where we get like a week after the World Series. And like, there was serious consideration to taking that. Well, I could say it this way. Never in my life did I ever think that I would turn down $15.8 million for 1 year.
Yeah.
Like, ever. The day that we did it, I looked at my wife. I was like, what are you talking about?
Play baseball?
Yeah, but it's in the hopes of hoping to get multiple years. But so we gave serious consideration to that because, the idea was, I love K Long. I loved all the guys. I loved Pat Rossler and TC. And it's like, we just got done winning a pennant. And I was able to finish the year kind of August, through the end of the postseason, minus the World Series, playing really well offensively. And so the idea of, running it back was like, yeah, I think so. But multiple years is what we were looking for. And then the offseason unfolds, and it ends up, the market, the second base market at that time was kind of, Ben Zobrist was the one who made that one go. You know what I mean? And where was he going to end up? I believe the Mets were interested, the Cubs were interested. And then you also had the trade market as well, and Asdrubal was available and Neil Walker. So the Mets end up going Isdrubal and Neal, kind of back-to-back days almost. And as a free agent, I was like, and then I looked at my wife and thought, it looks really unlikely like we're going to be able to find a way back to New York, which isn't anything personal. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
could have taken the qualifying offer as well too. And so, to be honest, our market was kind of cold. Like we didn't, there wasn't a ton of interest. I wouldn't say interest. The qualifying offer that was attached to me for the draft pick, teams they don't like giving up draft picks, and I don't blame them because that bonus pool money allows you to go and just add talent to your system, and talent to your system can help you in the big leagues themselves, or they can help you acquire talent at the deadline. And so this thing was kind of weighing me down. And so teams, they were a little, they just didn't have a ton of offers, but the Nationals made one that we wanted and took. It was about Christmas Eve, and then stayed in the NL East and wouldn't fight for a division.
You stayed in the NL East. You're aware that your best numbers against like any team are against the Mets. What's that like to own the team that you used to play for like that?
And I wouldn't call it own. Played well.
You hit 350 in 50 games.
Yeah, so maybe I was comfortable in that batter's box. I had been in it since 2009. It was interesting to pull in on the dark side to go into the visiting clubhouse because the only other time I'd been over there was for David's got a fantasy football league that I've been fortunate enough to be in for probably now,
Nice.
What is it, 2025, like 15 years now. So he
Oh my
hosted that one year. We all got together in the visiting clubhouse. So it was interesting to kind of walk in like the back way into the dark side. But I was motivated like to do well, to try to live up to the value of the contract. And then also like you see your former ball club, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't mind getting you guys too. And we're in the same division.
Yeah.
We're going to hook up 19 times. Like, all right. And I think fortunately, like we didn't play each other until like May that year, if I'm not mistaken. It was like it's deeper in the season, maybe 6 weeks. And I was swinging the bat pretty well. And then I swung the bat well, like the first game or two to kind of like settle in because again, it's that fight back and forth. Like the pitching staff, like Harvey and Jake are trying to knock me through the backstop. And I'm trying to go that way. I'm going to charge you too. My weapon's bigger. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was kind of, it was nice to have a good start if I wanted to play well in DC.
Starting to transition more to this current Mets team. While you were playing on the Nationals, you did have a little bit of overlap with Juan Soto.
Mm-hmm.
What was he like as a very, very, very young player? And could you ever feel or foresee that he'd become the player he's now become?
Okay, so it'd probably be difficult for me to predict that he would be, Rogers Hornsby, like OPS plus and 170. But I guess what I could say with that is that I was rehabbing and trying to get healthy because I'd had knee surgery in the off season of 17, and like I'm running crooked circles. You know what I mean? I'm not moving worth a crap, and so I'm kind of focused on that. When Juan comes up, so I'm watching the games, but not attending to him kind of as closely as a rehab player. But I still remember Kevin Long. I go, what's up with Juan? Because he hit a home run the other way, like one of his first games or two. And I was like, man, this guy took on the big carry as a 19-year-old. I was like, what is going on? And so I asked K-Long, I go, what's up with Juan? He goes, he'll never go back down. He goes, this one's special, Murph. Like this one's special. I was like, okay. And then I got back. I think one of my first series back was in Yankee Stadium. And Juan hit a home run the other way. And it's like just there in that box, nothing was ever felt like it was moving too fast for him. And I think watching him, part of that was his choice and his willingness to not ever give away a pitch. He never gives away pitches. And that's a choice because I've thrown enough in the trash where I wasn't paying attention to know it. Like, and so, it ends up being contagious. You know what I mean? Like if Juan's in there looking for a good ball every single pitch from the moment he wakes up in the morning, then what excuses do I have? It's like watching David. You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to do? Complain about not playing well or getting something from the crowd? Like David's out there every day standing up for us at the end of it and taking it. Not that the fans are giving it to him, but he said when Jeter got booed in New York, so like you're going to get it from time to time. And so it just like that sort of stuff builds a momentum on itself over the course of a long campaign. And you could see it, as Juan's in camp right now, like home run his first at bat, and you see him in his work and how he goes about it. It's like, yeah, he got like, he's almost Ted Williams. You know what I mean? Like this is fun to watch.
Yeah, it's awesome also to bring him into a team that made to the NLCS last year, has Francisco Lindor, brought back Pete Alonso, Vientos. The list goes on and on. The team's loaded. How do you feel about the Mets going into the 2025 season?
Well, I think that without a doubt, as you talk about the momentum of getting into the NLCS and, really, standing toe to toe, I think with the Dodgers, the old Charlie Dodgers last year. Um, I think that offensively, it's as deep a lineup. Like it's really deep. Of course, you have the Dodgers, but I think the depth of the Mets stands up with any other team in the National League, probably in the big leagues. It unfortunate news with Francisco Alvarez, which I'm sure we'll probably be able to talk about a bit. But again, the depth and the ability to go kind of switch, left, right with protection, and the not anybody be able to get the platoon advantage on you for too long. It's not. I'm not breaking any new ground to say that like the pitching in general. There's a couple like two. I think Minter's coming back. Easing back into it, and then is it Suarez? I'm playing like is he a little banged up in camp if I'm not mistaken, or no? Is there a relief pitcher?
Nunez.
Nunez, forgive me.
Yes.
Thank you very sorry. I'm doing 2 games at the end of spring training, so I'll like get locked in for that. But I'm more globally watching my baseball, and then Manaya and oh, well, forgive me. We were
Frankie
just talking
Montas.
about Montas as well too. So like we were kind of talking to you guys like there's work that has to be done. Like the starting pitching, you're kind of hoping to get 800 innings out of the staff, and so it'll be the internal options that they're working through in spring training to try and that to get to the return health of Manaya and Montas, and then kind of see what happens at the deadline. Maybe you don't need much. I'm curious to see how much the bullpen gets used early in the season to make up maybe for some innings that aren't being provided that you thought you might get from the starting pitching. So these campaigns are fun. You still remember Carlos's first, 5 ball games last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the sky was falling, like it goes every direction and twice on Sunday. And so, yeah, I think that, it'd be like, the crosstown right now they're dealing with starting pitching health as well, and so it just kind of unfortunately that time of year where you're hoping to dodge the raindrops, and if not, between Jeremy Hefner and the training staff with Brian Chicolo, who I had in AAA, and Joe Goli in AA, like they'll get him back and as strong as ever. Just you want to you don't you don't want to get too far behind too early. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to have to thread the needle. I think that even David Stearns kind of alluded to that last year, that we're kind of on the edge there. You know what I mean? Like we believe in the ball club we have, but we got to go at a certain point. You run out of games. So
You mentioned that you'll be doing some games toward the end of the month on SNY. You made your SNY debut last year. I think speaking for Mark and I, speaking for Mets fans, you did an amazing job. What's it been like, that transition, trying to be the color guy on a broadcast and trying to add that to your repertoire?
well, thank you for that. Thank you. That's humbling. I appreciate it. 'Cause I'm nervous. Like I did, like this is nerve-wracking stuff. I can't say enough about Gary Cohen and just how
He's the man.
just golly, he just lays it out for you. You know what I mean? And just provides such an environment to talk baseball. And then, Ron as well too, but I mean, he does SNY. Is a reason he gets national games. Like they're the best. And then got to work with Keith as well too. But I'd say one of the biggest adjustments, honestly, was being the different viewpoint of the strike zone and being so far away from it. I like to be close to the strike zone. You know what I mean? I like to be real close to it. That's what we're fighting over. I like to tuck in there as close as I can. So it took me some getting used to that. So what?
I said, yeah, you got your weapon.
Yeah, and it's a big one too. It's bigger than this thing.
Yeah.
And so I had to catch myself. I started watching the game on the monitor to see what happened in the strike zone, to see if it was a curve or a fastball or like a change of pace. And then I would pick the ball up live. So that way, if there was a highlight or a replay for me to do or some color to do on, I knew what pitch it was. I knew what part of the strike zone it was in or not in as a bad ball. And then I could kind of, because the first time I did it, which was good to do, I was kind of trying to decipher what had happened in the zone and the coming together at the same time. I was trying to like say something that was, people wanted to hear. And so I was like, so I watched it on the monitor and then pick up the ball. And so I've enjoyed that because I want to be close to that strike zone.
Watching the game from afar as well, there's been so many changes that have gone on with how the game's being played and the philosophies, especially on the hitting and pitching side of things. What's your take on the, I guess, movement forward right now in baseball? At least it seems like in the public eye that we're very much more analytical focused, and rather it's not as much performance based every single day.
Yeah. I think we end up being like, from a performance standpoint, once you get to the big leagues, it's a pretty darn good meritocracy. It seems that maybe there's a level of data that may give guys opportunities in the minor leagues that they might not have gotten previously if they weren't being productive. Like we like the way that your curve performs. It spins at this, RPMs, which we have learned that that has success. So if we can learn to get you to throw it, we'll kind of keep giving you chances. I think that I don't overly love machines personally. Like, I think part of the reason that I had be so fortunate to be accurate, that was kind of my unique skill, is my dad threw to me as a child all the time. If I asked, he was throwing. And so I got good at dancing. I think this is a dance between the pitcher and the batter and with my father, you know what I mean? And I got accurate. And then I was going to actually ask you guys, like, I remember my baseball growing up, not as much cheering for a specific team. Like Atlanta would have been the closest one to us because they were on TV. But I remember it as playing. Like, I just remember playing, like, all the time. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to play with my peers. I wanted to get at bats and hit. And so I think that the machine pitch, while you can probably get more reps, you know what I mean, in a shorter amount of time, there's something about seeing that ball come out of somebody's hand. And when I think back to, like, who I would consider the two greatest hitters of all time, like Babe Ruth and Ted Williams, all they did was play with their peers, unsupervised. They didn't have no coaches out there. They had the scoreboard, and you had to learn how to problem solve. So, like, if you like to run the bases, you better learn how to be accurate, because you only get 3 swipes at this thing unless they throw a strike, you know what I mean? And so I think that there's an opportunity for the youth and kind of baseball to problem solve better if we're not so on top of them. You know what I mean? Like, let them have their style. When's the last time you saw somebody with some Melot sort of style? You know what I mean? Like,
a long time.
Like Josh Hamilton had a nice little bat tip to him, but like Ted was like, don't mess with their style. Like, I think that children, because I'm in the youth kind of right now watching my boys play, children are the best movers. You know what I mean? They move beautifully. What they lack is accuracy. But they spend 30 hours a week in school. So why would I expect you to be accurate with this? I wasn't accurate with it on defense. You know what I mean? So why would I expect you to be? And so I think that there's kind of that opportunity. And so I know, you guys ever been on a machine before and ever hit against one? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
James likes to make fun of me because I talk about my high school baseball days like very fondly on the podcast, and it's always a running joke. But yeah, like, there is nothing like hitting off of a live arm. Like, the live arm is always better. It's always, you get a much better read on it. Like, my dad threw BP to me, same thing. Whenever I wanted, he was ready to go. But yeah, hitting off the machine, I've hit off of one of the new machines recently where you can literally like copy Jacob deGrom's slider.
Yes. Is that Traject thing?
Yes, the Traject one. And then on top of that, hitting with like a Rapsodo machine and seeing how hard you're hitting it and launch angle. It's like very overwhelming if that's not something you were used to. But at the same time, it's like, wow, I kind of wish I had some more
at least access, the choice of it.
Yeah,
maybe the choice of it. All right, so here's been my explanation of hitting off a machine, and the Traject may be different because I haven't done like the newest one. I've done one before, but with just like some run-of-the-mill guy, not like DeGrom out there.
Yes.
But I equate the pitching machine, like a straight fast one out of the pitching machine, you like go into the eye doctor, and when they put that puff of air in your eye and you kind of go like this, that's what it feels like when the ball comes out. Like when somebody kind of comes into me and gets their wind up going or their stretch, it's like I can get in a rhythm with you and kind of get in the style. It's more difficult to do in my experience with that. So that's been my machine one. And I agree with you, as far as like to have the access to it for sure. But I do think that still is best is if you can get someone to throw to you. I just think of the number of at bats that like these old school guys had. Like when they got done playing a season, they went and barnstormed. If I had to do it again, I would play more winter ball.
Really?
I would do less weight room and play more winter ball. If I want to get better at baseball, I think if I play more baseball, I'll get better at it.
Do you think that a lot of the injuries right now in general that are coming up are because players are focused a lot more on weightlifting rather than like staying loose type thing and playing more baseball?
I think that if you throw and hit more and learn how to, I think this is a punch. You're throwing a punch from the mound. You got two of them always, and then I tell my boys too. You got two punchers and you got two kickers. You know what I mean? So what those old school guys kind of learn how to do is they learn how to throw a punch they could throw over and over again. All right. I think that also that if someone else is teaching you like what to do with the ball and how to hold it and how to throw it and how to shape it specifically, that's not necessarily your punch and your style. That's theirs. Now, you don't know if this coaching, what it's doing to you. So I more prefer, like I have my son, he throws curveballs. He's 11 years old. He's about to be, and he goes, Dad, am I allowed to throw curves? And all the kids, I'll tell them, I go, absolutely. I go, what kind of curve you want to throw? You can throw one side to side. You can throw one over the top. You can throw any kind of shape you want. I go, paint a picture of the curve you want and send it. Like, I don't think that Candy Cummings, when he started throwing a curve with his rock, you know what I mean, like was going to break. That way he just started curving it. Now you could say he's not doing it at the velocity. And that definitely plays a role, but I'd like to see kind of less specific coaching on like the positions you should get into and more coaching on like, what's the scoreboard telling us right now? And how can I teach you how to hunt in this situation? Because we got to score more runs than the other guys.
Daniel, it's been great talking. I feel like we could keep you here for hours. We can find stuff to talk about all day, baseball, the Mets, whatever it is, but we're going to have to wrap this up for a second. So just a couple final kind of more random questions before we let you go. You've talked about facing guys like Jake. You were part of an era where there was probably the last true era of the starting pitcher, Kershaw, Verlander, these guys, Scherzer, who've become monsters of the game, future Hall of Famers. Who might have been the toughest pitcher you ever had to face in your career? Someone who always had your number. That would be maybe a bit of a surprise to fans.
Oh, snap. Well, it wouldn't be. Okay. That's an interesting question because I think relief pitcher, nobody will be surprised. I like my last at bat or two off of Josh Hader. Like the last one looks like I'm from Benchwarmers. Like
lefty feels impossible.
Yeah, like I called a hit and run on myself and still didn't have a chance. Like I had no chance. And then like whenever Cliff Lee would get in a spot, because like Cliff understood, I think maybe first and foremost that his job was to get deep in the game. Like it feels like he was trying to finish what he started. So he would, I wouldn't say have the governor on, but he would know how to get through the lineup if there was nobody on base. But he was a different human, and when there was runners in scoring position, he would start throwing things it just hadn't seen until there were runners on. So he was difficult to face, like really difficult. And then someone that nobody, I wouldn't say wouldn't expect. It's definitely a lefty. I can't really. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was a lefty or two. Like it'd be like left-handers. Like I hit on the left side because I like having the platoon advantage. You know what I mean? Most of the world's right-handed, so the only thing better would have been switch, but I couldn't do it.
What do you think is the most underappreciated trait in Major League Baseball right now?
Accuracy.
All right.
As in command for a pitcher?
Accuracy on both spots. When I booted a ball, were you like, oh my goodness, I love that Daniel is so accurate catching the ball. It's like, no, it's not at all. So it's go ahead, please.
I was going to say, you got a call 2 years ago to come back and you had a cup of coffee in AAA with the Angels. Is it over? Is it officially over for Daniel Murphy?
Yeah. Okay. So I came back because I started watching the way Babe Ruth hit. And I was like, I didn't hit like that. I had a completely different move. But then I'll watch my boys. If I give them a heavy enough bat, get in the same exact positions that Babe Ruth gets into, and Ted Williams, and Roger Hornsby, and Griffey. Griffey took us back in time, in my opinion. So I got to thinking, what is it that children have in relation to Babe Ruth that's similar? It's like, well, Ruth wasn't really coached how to hit. You know what I mean? Like specifically. And the child hasn't been coached. And then I don't really coach my boys on positions. I just tell them to nuke. You know what I mean? And that's it. Just hit this thing to the sun. And I give them heavy bats. And so like I got my 7-year-old, I got videos of him swinging a 35-inch, 35-ounce Lou Gehrig bat. But it's a sword. It's a sword. You know what I mean? It's a stick. He likes swords. It's just a bigger one. But he's smart. He likes to hit baseball. So he figured out he'll snap that thing right in there. He gets in the same positions as Ruth. Ruth's just more accurate because he's done it more.
Yeah, just a couple more times,
Little
definitely
bit.
for sure.
Well, yeah. hmm
Who's your favorite baseball player to watch right now in the league?
hmm So difficult to not say Mike Trout when he's healthy because
Yeah,
like Roger Hornsby, OPS plus, you know what I mean, 172, and now Judge is right there as well. Um, and also, I don't understand how right-handers do it. I just don't get it. I don't know how you do it from that side of the plate. You got to stick your nose in there on curves like 75% of the time. It looks miserable. Like it just, I don't know how they do it. So those guys are really impressive. I find myself like I'll watch Trout. Like I'll go out of my way to watch Mike. So I pray that he's healthy because it's much better for our ball game. And then
agreed.
like Soto's at bats, like these guys that don't give away pitches. Those are kind of the things I end up attending to specifically.
All right, this is my last one. Mark, if you got another one, we like to ask a lot of the ball players to come on here. When you signed that first big contract, what was the first thing you bought?
Well, what's your definition of big? Because I thought that like arbitration year one was pretty big. Does that
It's
count?
fair. Yeah, you can tell us the most fun. Yeah, the most fun thing when you
Yeah, I
got
would.
a
All
bag in
right.
your hand.
So, okay. I went to Total Wine because my dad's from Kentucky, so he likes bourbon. So I find myself kind of liking a little bourbon, you know, a
Mm.
little whiskey, a little scotch. And so, I went to Total Wine and probably got like, I don't know, like a $1,200 bottle of scotch. And it was like,
Wow,
Nice.
nice.
we'll celebrate this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so that would have been, yeah, that
Yeah.
would have
I was
been
gonna
probably,
I was gonna have no more questions, but now I gotta know. Go to whiskey or scotch. You said you like it. What are you buying?
yeah, there's like if I could find it anytime I want, there's this it's called Tully Bardine. It's a scotch. It's just kind of got some sweetness to it. And I think I've had like I don't know, maybe the 20 years, something like that. If I can find like kind of this Tully, a little bit older Tully Bardine, um, that's what I would do. I don't drink a ton, but if I am, like it's that tastes good.
Nice. All right, James. Nothing else. I think we're good to wrap
I'm
this
good.
up.
Yeah.
Murph, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, we can have you on again a couple times during the season. It'd be great talking more baseball with you. If there's anything you want to plug again here at the end, this would
Mm.
be your shot, and we appreciate you coming on.
Oh no, I'd say again, thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you for letting me talk about my wife's charity. She's really kind of poured
Mhm.
her heart into that, and it's gotten so well received by our baseball community, and just everyone. So no, thank you guys very much, and let's pray for salud and good health for everyone here out of camp, and everybody can get out of here for opening day.
Couldn't
Mhm.
agree more. Everybody, Daniel Murphy, thank you so much.
Cheers.